Hey everybody! So this week in Saturday Scribbles, we will be doing tricky tangles, and that just means that they're either hard to do on their own as a small version, or they're seemingly hard based on a bigger version of them, but once you get the technique down, they're actually fairly easy. The first tangle just looks like a ribbon, and this tangle would actually be great practice for hand lettering because you have to practice doing the thick and thin lines. And so at each curve, you're just going to make the curve a little chunkier than the rest of the line, and that will help it stand out. The next tangle is really fun. It's called a victory, and it looks like a firework or a water sprinkler. So if you did my fireworks video, then you'll see some of the same techniques being used here. So this one's fairly easy on its own, but what you can do with it in a larger picture is really cool and can look really complicated. Alright guys, this next zentangle is kind of like puzzle pieces going together, except they're overlapping. And so you start with a random shape, and then you have other random shapes coming out of it. I just did squiggles because that's what the example I saw looked like, and so that's what I went with. And then inside of those random shapes, you're going to put shapes of a different curvature or angle. So because my big shapes are curved, my inside shapes are very angular. And that's just to add intrigue, I guess. I'm not entirely sure. And then within those shapes, you can do other kinds of patterns or designs. I just went with what the example had, which was stripes, but you could really do anything. And the more you shade here, the more of a three-dimensional look it will have. I just did a little bit of shading to give you an idea, but again, the more detail you put in and the more shading, the wilder it's going to look. This tangle is definitely one of my top favorite ones now. And the main thing to remember is when you're making the first X, you want the X to be curved, and this will provide more of the circular shape and make it pop out a little more than just doing a flat X. And it took me a little while to figure out the lines coming out of the X because I kept wanting to draw them in the wrong direction. So look out for that. And again, this is one that may seem really complicated, especially if you just completely fill it with lines coming out of the original X. But in reality, once you get the technique down, it's not that hard to make, but it still looks super impressive. I've seen several large versions of this tangle recently, and they just blow my mind. Just the amount of detail and how awesomely complicated it looks. But again, not too bad. Um, the trickiest part was figuring out the diamond shape for me, and I know that's pretty sad, but that's what tripped me up the most. So be on the lookout for that. But otherwise, this one wasn't too bad. A little more tricky, but not too bad. This last zentangle was a nightmare for me, and I don't think it should have been, but I guess I needed a ruler or something because I completely messed up on the very last square. But I guess it's just you have to pay attention to your size squares, the size of your squares, and you have to make sure that everything lines up together and that you don't have a wonky line going through and ruining everything. So that's something to be on the lookout for. And that's where I messed up, where one of my lines didn't go straight through like it was supposed to, and then subsequent lines didn't line up correctly. And in the end, I just blacked out that square because it was horrible. And I didn't show coloring all of it because it would have taken too long, but I did do the first 2 sets, and you can get an idea of what it's supposed to look like, and then you'll see the completed one in just a minute. And these are the completed tangles, and thank you so much for watching. And if you like to feel relaxed or like to do things like this as a way to promote self-care within your daily routine, I encourage you to watch our upcoming self-care videos and programs. I'll see you next time.